All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakaha Kodash. The double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yahakim bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. And Lord willing, this lesson will be touching on, Eve's true nature, man, and how age, tends to expose, their true spirit, right? I want to start off in the book of Genesis, the 3rd chapter, and then, basically this will help segue into the topic. This is Genesis 3, and I'll start here at 14. So then the Lord power, Yahweh said unto the serpent, which was a man, by the way, it was not a physical snake, right? It's describing the characteristics of a man, right? And this man, through this line, his spirit, continues to be passed down, right? And what I mean by that is the same spirit in this serpent, this man, is the same spirit that was into Cain, right? Which is the same spirit in Esau, Edom, right? Which Esau, Edom is the father of who? All the Edomites, man, right? So the same spirit, the same instance that the scripture speaks about, this enmity, this hostility, this hatred, right, is passed down to all Edomites, man, regardless if they show their hatred for Jake or not, right? This is the matter of fact, I grabbed this precept. It's a spirit called on Yabashin Shai. I believe this is Sirach 13. One second. Oops. Oops. One second. It's not Sirach 13. It's coming, yeah, Sirach 33. So like I said, Sirach 13. Sirach 33 and 14. Because this is the balance, the duality that Yahweh Shai established upon the earth, man. And I'm starting here at verse 10. It reads, and all men are from the ground, and Adam was created from the earth. Right? We understand all people have, or all people of the earth were made from the elements, right? But the separation is that the sons of God, they were special hallowed people unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? It says all men are from the ground. And you can read 2 Ezra 6 for that. It says, and all men are from the ground, as the scripture says, of Adam come we all, and Adam was created of the earth, and much knowledge the Lord had divided them and made their ways diverse, right? Diverse meaning what? Different, separate. Some of them hath he blessed, going back into the sons of God, who were the Israelites, and exalted, right? And some of them hath he sanctified, that sanctification only is unto us, and set near himself, right? Being the apple of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's eye. But some of them hath he cursed and brought low, and turned out in their places. Now we understand we're a cursed people because the curses are on us due to our disobedience, but we're actually the blessed ones. Esau is truly the cursed, right? And we're going to see that, right, in the kingdom to come. And you're seeing it now. Deuteronomy 30 and 7 says, as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, right? So man is in the hands of him that made him to render them as liketh him best. Good is set against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. So look upon all the works of the Most High Yahweh, and there are two and two, one against another. So that's the point, right? Good is set against evil, right? The righteous against the wicked against the righteous, Esau against Jacob. So when we go back into the book of Genesis, the 3rd chapter, and it speaks here, it says, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life, right? It says, now put enmity between thee and the woman, right? Now, woman is representative of who? Israel, right? So this enmity, this hostility, this hatred, began, in the garden. But Yahweh Shai set it up to be this way forever. It says, in between thy seed and her seed, we understand women don't have seed, but it's talking about the seed of Israel, right? Out of this line of the sons of God, man, right? Versus sons of the wicked. It says, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So when we go, further, or I should say, after this history, and go into the book of Genesis, right, we understand this occurred. It's Genesis 27. I'll start at 38. And Esau pleaded, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And because we understand Esau, he ultimately sold his birthright unto Jacob, right? He despised it, as the scriptures tell you. And when you read in the New Testament, it says the children not yet being born, it was predestined that Jacob would get the blessing, right? So of course Jacob Yaquab him, it was set up that way. But Esau also despised his blessing, and that's why he sold it. And when we keep going, it says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, right? The resources of the earth, the oil, right? It says, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live. And we see the most carnal people, when it comes to perfecting a weaponry in every sense of its nature, not just a gun, not just the missile or the bomb, but the dew, the harp, so forth and so on. These are all parts of his sword, the media, right? It says, and shall serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob. There goes that enmity. There goes that hostility again. Let's go into this word hated. Right? We know what it means, but let's. H7852. It says to hate, to oppose oneself, to bear a grudge, retain animosity against, to cherish the animosity against. So this nigga loves to hate us, right? It's in his spirit, to be against us. And every essence of what Jacob is supposed to be and is, Esau hates every strand of it, right? And we're going to get into how this applies into, sort of quote unquote older Edomites, when they basically put off the social norms. And I'm saying it in that way because it's a symptom, or they say it's a symptom, but it's really just their true nature that's coming out. And I'll touch on this right after this precept is done, right after I finish these. It says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. It means kill, man. And E's job has been the weapon of Yahweh Shema Shah to destroy you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Right? Isaiah 10:5, O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. Right? And when you go into the book of Psalms, it tells you, the wicked, which is thy sword, man. It says, and these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, right, which is our forefather, whose name was later changed to Israel. He is a prince of the power, right? Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, behold, progenitor of the 12, by the way, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. And when you read this in the NLT, it says, but Rebekah heard about Esau's plans. So she sent for Jacob and told him, listen, Esau is consoling himself by plotting to kill you. So as you continue to read, through the book of Genesis, you see how E came up against Jake. How the sons of Esau, the chief house of Edom, was the first nation, to make war and destroy our elderly. Matter of fact, speaking of these niggas here. Oops. Right, the Dukes of Edom, right? And when you go here, I believe it's in the book of Deuteronomy. Yeah. It says 25 and 17, remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when you were come forth out of Egypt. Now, matter of fact, let's just go just to get the meat off the bone so you can see who Amalek stems from, right? son of Eliphaz by his concubine Timnah, grandson of who? Esau, right? Descendants of Amalek. And we know these to be the JOOS's, right? The 48ers, man. And this 1 second. It says, remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when you were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way and smote the hindermost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, right? Speaking of the elderly, when thou was faint and weary, and he feared not Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord Yah power Yahweh had given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of who? Amalek. From under heaven, thou shalt not forget it. When you read this in the NLT, it says, therefore, when the Lord your power has given you rest from all your enemies in the land he is giving you as a special possession, right? And this prophecy is yet to come, right? But it's going to befall, once the elect and the 1/3 be delivered, all these nations will be possessions unto the house of David, man, right? You must destroy the Amalekites and erase their memory from under heaven. Never forget this, right? But here it is, those rats use this as a precept to try to fight or justify them destroying the Palestinians, which the Palestinians, that's not their land either. But nevertheless, this just shows you the nature of Edom, right? That hatred has never went away. That hostility, that enmity has never been dissolved because it's in their spirit to hate us. Now, one thing, the point of the topic is going into those with dementia, man, right? So basically, I asked this question. So it says some white, which I'll just say some Edomite dementia patients appear to become racist. It's not appear, they are. But dementia doesn't, it says that, but this dementia does not make someone racist. Instead, and we're going to break this all down because he has a way of wording things to make it seem as if it's not what it is, right? But through the spirit, we understand how to decipher, right? What the blurred lines are. It says instead the disease can change behavior in ways that allow previously learned attitudes, right? Which we understand, these are the individuals who were able to freely express themselves freely express how they felt about Jake, at their younger ages, right? That attitude, that spirit within them is what it is. The spirit does not change, right? The spirit that Esau has to hate Jacob, it's supposed to be ingrained within them. So all it's saying here, it says, instead the disease can change behavior in ways that allow previously learned attitudes, memories, or social habits, right, which are also seen as social norms, to be expressed with less self-control, right? And what is a social norm? It's basically a state in which society deems either a good or bad, righteous or wicked, so to speak. For example, a social norm now is, you can't talk about the LGBTs, right? The LMNOP community. That's a social norm, saying, it's not wrong. It's just you have to accept them. When in truth, it is wrong. The scriptures clearly speak against it, right? But that's something that's been socially accepted for these days. So it's saying that the disease alters or allows those same attitudes, ultimately that same spirit, that they have in them, to just be brought out, right? It allows their actual internal, being to be expressed, right? And that's why it says here, several factors contributes. It says loss of inhibition. It says dementia, especially frontotemporal dementia in some cases of Alzheimer's disease can damage brain regions involved in self-control. But this is the thing. When you take a look at individuals who, or you hear the stories, the accounts of individuals who deal with dementia patients, they'll forget, a lot. But one thing they won't forget is, for example, if it's a Jake that's tending into them, what they never forget is the racial aspect, so to speak, man. Going back into Raza, right? They'll remember that you a nigga though, right? They'll remember that they hate you. The word nigga won't leave their brain. but they'll forget a family member, right? So why is that? It's not just the fact that, it's expressed with less self-control. No, it's more than that. Their spirit, right, is ultimately just being brought out. They're closer to a state of death, right? They're also, the way that you can say the brain is altered, right? We can go into the science of it. The way that their brain is now, being altered or handled is that they care less, right? They care less about about what one thinks about them, right? So them bringing up the social habits to be expressed with less self-control. That's why you hear when older individuals or when men and women get older, hey, they care less about how they're looked at, right? They don't care about what society thinks or how they're looked at by society, man. They understand they're on their way out. So they say exactly what they mean and they mean what they say. Right? It says older memories remain stronger. Dementia often preserves long-term memories longer than recent ones. Someone raised during periods when racist language was more common may revert to words or attitudes learned decades earlier. But this is the thing, right? It's not that they don't believe, right, that they're superior. It's not that they don't believe, Jake is inferior. It's the fact that society, in the current age that they're living in, doesn't accept them saying these things anymore. But that wicked root, right? That hostility is what it is, man. That's why when we go here in the book of Ezekiel, 35th chapter, in the 5th verse, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, right? We read the hostility back in the book of Genesis 3, right? It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by force of the sword, right? By force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. When we read this in NLT, it says, your eternal hatred for the people of Israel led you to butcher them when they were helpless, when I had already punished them for all their sins, right? So guess what? This perpetual hatred means what? Ongoing, everlasting. H5769 says perpetual, long duration, futurity, forever, everlasting, the ancient, right? So that ancient spirit of Esau's hatred, hey, it just comes out when they get older, man. They don't care about what society thinks. They understand, hey, I'm gonna speak my mind. Hey, because they'll forget the faces of them. They'll forget loved ones' names, faces, but they won't forget niggas. They won't forget their hatred of Jake, man. Right? It says someone raised during periods when racist language is more common may revert to words or attitudes learned at decades earlier. But this is just their spirit, man. Hey, Jake was always, at odds with E, man. That's the way it was set up from the beginning, right? We were meant to be opposing forces back in the womb, right? Back in the womb, and back in the garden, that spirit was struck, right? Since people with dementia can become frightened by unfamiliar people or situations, they may react negatively to anyone who seems different. Not only people of another race, but people with accents, uniforms, and unfamiliar appearances. Here it is: reduced ability to understand social norms, meaning all that is put away. When they're hit with this dementia, man, they revert to their true spirit, and ultimately, this is now we understand. What we're exposing on the highways and hedges is this here, Hebrews 4:12. But this applies to everyone of their nation. See, even when we go into the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter, and speaks about all the nations that were confederate against us, right? It goes into, Esau and Moab and Ishmael and all these nations that consulted to cast us down from our excellency, right? These are the same nations in Lamentations 2, that say, oh, this is the city of perfection, right? These niggas, right? This is how they look upon us. So all we're doing through the spirit is pointing out of who these nations are, the spirit they come in, and ultimately that we being better than them, because we're nigh unto Yahweh Shem Shai, a nation. As the scripture says, we were once a nation not desired, but ultimately Yahweh Shem Shai set forth a remnant unto himself, right? And is given those remnant of men, right? The 144,000 and the 1/3, a spirit to be able to judge, really the 144,000, the spirit to judge and use the word of Yahweh Shem Yahshua to break down these topics and the thoughts and intents of the heart, right? Hebrews 4:12, for the word of Yahweh Shem Yahshua is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart, right? And when you're reading the NLT, it says, for the word of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is alive and powerful, man, right? Because this word is alive, a living waters. It is sharper than the sharpest two-edged sword, cutting between soul and spirit, between joint and marrow. It exposes our innermost thoughts and desires, right? The intent of the mind, the discern of the thought, right? And when you go into this word discerner, G29:24 says kritikos. It reminds me of the word critical, like critical thinking, right? Relating to judging, fit to judge, skill and judge. Here it is, critical, that's a spirit, right? Decisive, discriminative, right? It says discriminative here in the Strongs. Matter of fact, let's go into this word discriminative. Bam. Call Allah Yahbashim Yahshua, discriminative. The ability to recognize or make fine distinctions between things. In technology and logistics, it refers to identifying boundaries and categories. In social contexts, it can overlap with discriminatory, prejudicial, or prejudice, that's what it's going into, or unfair treatment based on traits like race, raza, and gender, right? Race, right? The intent of the heart. That's why when we see Edom coming up against us when we're on the highways and hedges or on these different videos, hey, look at Elder Anatazakba's page, man. And he has thousands of lessons of E talking about, oh, how the children of Israel are this and they're not these and they don't fit this, and right, that's just E's true nature coming out, man. They ultimately are praying for us to be wrong, and guess what? We're not. So when we take a look at these older patients, hey, or these older Edomites, hey, they just saying exactly what their spirit is programmed to be. You know, that's it. They're just saying exactly what their spirit is. Their spirit is ultimately drawing out who they are, right? It's as if it's it's taking off a filter for their true thoughts, the intents of their heart. That's all it's doing, man, right? See, back in the times that it's speaking that they lived in, their previous behavior and memories, Edom didn't have to be quote unquote politically correct. Hey, they could be as hateful as they wanted to. You know, but as certain laws and things changed, hey, they were forced to hide who they truly were. They were forced to hide it. But guess what? The Lord is going to allow that spirit to come back out. Hey, he's allowing it to come back out now. Hey, you don't see how E talks about you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans? It's not just, it's just them. No, it's all of them. They all hate you. And what's the proof? Hey, you don't have to believe it now, but when all hell hits the fan, right? And you know, people are fighting in the streets, right? Race riots, and I call race riots for no reason, right? When race riots and civil unrest, right, occur, see if he likes you then. See if he really is your brother, right? See if y'all holding hands then. No, that time of hell, right, is going to show forth the true spirits of all these nations. And guess what? They're not going to be for you, Jake. If anything, they're going to be trying to take you out. All Esau has did is put a filter on his true intents and hatred for you. So now you have to live in a world where they can smile in your face, right? Where they can act like they like you. But an Edomite's nature is an Edomite's nature. It's that simple. They don't change. It's just hidden. Hey, but this, it allows it to just be brought right out. As soon as they see a so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, Hey, the racial words fly, man, because that's how they truly feel, right? That's why those norms just say, fuck it. They just throw it out, man. Right. And this is the word right here, right? Speaking on, the end of days, that Matthew 24 and 12, right? It says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. In fact, I'll grab it. Going to that word cycle, right? G5594, right? It says to be made or grow cold or cool or cold, right? Psycho. Let's grab it in the online Edom. There we go. It says shortening of psychopathic. All right. Here it is. It says ever pertaining to the mind as a subject of study, pertaining to a person's mental or emotional state, right? And going back into this word here, dementia, right? It says extremely low condition of mental function, mental incapacity, madness, insanity, right? So the word psycho, going here, Salakia. Type of this word right here. Right? Psychology, the study of the soul, it says, right? The breath, the spirit, the phenomena of the mind, right? In this word psyche, the animating spirit, the human mind, the soul, the mind, the spirit, the life, right? The faculty of reason, to blow, to break, to breathe. It's like I was reading it. Going back here. Oops. Here we go. It says of waning love, right? Of waning. Hey, that means love to what? Ultimately be taken away or decrease, right? To wax cold, psyche or psycho. So when you go into dementia, it says literally a being of out of one's mind to be mad or psycho, man, raving, stem of demons, right? Let's see if it has any more. To dement, to be driven mad, to bring to a state of dementia, demented, to drive out of one's mind, fool, wild and reckless. Hey, because he was wild and reckless, back into the time where they was hanging Jake, man, right? The 1600s here in America. They was reckless with it. They were wild with it, man. Taking postcards or taking pictures of Jake burning at the stake, cutting off their privy members and sending them forth as postcards. And you have to be wild, reckless, and hated or hatred or exhibiting hatred for all that to occur. Right? It says of the mind. There we go again, of that mind, man. Demented. To be driven mad, psyche. Right? So this shows you, man, true nature comes out when they get to that age. It's not just they're no. Their spirit being close to death, they spirit is closer to tell you exactly how they feel. That's all this is, man. Right? So I just wanted to bring forth this lesson to the body. Lord willing, it was edifying. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harachaha Kodash. A double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yah can bring out this word in diligence and in truth. Shalom.